would make a difference. If you would pick one area in which being a leader and effectively exercising leadership would make a difference, a specific situation, get one.
Okay.
You got one?
Yes.
You got one? All right. Now, who are the relevant parties?
Relevant?
Yeah. Who are the relevant parties?
Again.
Tell me, who are the relevant parties? Who are the parties that this situation involve or could get involved? Okay, I'm going to bring this leadership course to all of Ukraine and put it in university, right? Okay, that's a specific situation that being a leader and exercising leadership effectively would make a difference, yeah? The relevant parties. Right now, the relevant parties are you, Dimitro, all of the other students here, all of the students in the universities, all of the politicians, all of the teachers,
And
right?
Ukraine.
Everybody maybe in Ukraine is a relevant party.
Okay.
Relevant, there are no relevant parties in Mexico. Yeah? Those are the relevant parties. Some are more relevant than others. So, do you identify some of your relevant parties? Can you identify that? Okay, good. What are their fundamental concerns? So you likely have to start by identifying their position and drill up to find their fundamental concern. Speculate on a future that could be created that wasn't going to happen anyway that fulfills or contributes to the fulfilling of the fundamental concerns of the relevant parties. Are you lost on that last one? Okay. So you want an example?
Yes.
Alright. There's a guy in a school that's a president and he owns companies. He owns his own companies. And he was in the space program in Russia and they took it apart and he started companies. Yeah? And they offered him a job, a teaching position, because he knows how to be a president. He knows how to own companies. He knows how to create companies from scratch, from nothing. And so they hire him to teach in this prestigious university where they teach people like presidents and things. Okay? Now, he doesn't speak English. So he wants somebody to teach him to speak English. So, he asked me if I would speak English, teach him to speak English. And I said, sure, I'll teach you to speak English. So I'm a relevant party for his project to learn to speak English, yeah? Because I can speak English and I can presumably teach him. So I'm now a relevant party in his project. Now, he needs to learn to do this in order to maintain his position at the university because this university is going to go global. And to be global, you have to be, English is the global language. So they say, you got to be fluent in 2 years. So now I'm really a relevant party. Now this guy happens to be a leader, obviously, and exercises leadership effectively, completely. Now, but he doesn't know how to teach it, but I do. I got this course, don't I? So now I can teach him English using this course. He can see this course is a good fit to teach leadership, which is he now has to promise to teach leadership in English and in other languages because he's the guy that's in charge of training presidents and the school made him in charge of training. People pay a lot of money to get him to train them. But the technology to be a leader is not all that worked out, as you can see here. Normally they do case studies, but it doesn't give you access to being a leader, like you're going to get access. But I can give that to him, so now I can give that to him. Now what he can do is he can teach it in this prestigious university that he's at, right? So can you see the fulfilling of the concerns of the parties? I'm teaching him English, He's learning, this sophisticated language. He's going to be fluent. He's going to teach the course. And if this course gets taught by this guy, it's going to probably get in all of Ukraine because everybody's going to want it. So it's fulfilling the concerns of the parties involved. But we didn't start out knowing all this. This just kind of came together in 3 meetings. It just started like, hey, do you want to teach this guy English? It's like, yeah, I'll talk to him. What the heck?
Is this a real example?
Actually, it is. Yeah. So, that's kind of how it works. Can you see that? Fulfilling. Speculate on a future that could be created that wasn't going to happen anyway. That wasn't going to happen anyway. And it fulfills the concerns, or contributes to fulfilling the concerns, the fundamental concerns of the relevant parties. It's a perfect match for what he needs and a perfect match for what I need. All right. The contextual framework for leader and leadership with its 4 aspects listed below is the second of 3 structural elements. So this is the second of 3 structural elements, the contextual framework. Okay. The 4 aspects of our contextual framework when taken as a whole. As we said, our contextual framework first looks at leader and leadership separately from each of these perspectives. Then, when the 4 perspectives are taken together as a whole, they provide access to mastering what leader and leadership actually are. So if you haven't listened to those videos on, interacted with them so as to make them your own, on linguistic abstractions, phenomena, concepts, or terms, if you haven't been in a class, if you missed those, you need to get those, because when the 4 perspectives are taken together as a whole, they provide access to mastering what leader and leadership actually are. This enables us to get our arms around the being of a leader and effective exercise of leadership. Having mastered this overall context, we can then get our hands on the levers and dials of being a leader and the effective exercise of leadership. To powerfully deal with something that is at first counterintuitive for you, you take what is new for you, and without comparing or relating it to anything you already know, get yourself clear exactly what it says, and then consider what it says as a realm of possibility. In other words, take what it says like the lines of a joke, whereas with a joke, you take what is said at face value as a possibility. Do you understand that? Like a lion walks into a bar. You know I'm telling a joke, right? A kangaroo, a crocodile walks into a bar. Now you take it at face value. You don't say, oh no, a crocodile doesn't walk and they don't go in bars. You don't say that. You take it as a possibility. So that's what we're suggesting to do. What is a phenomenon? Drawing on the definition of phenomenon in Webster's dictionary, an event, circumstance, or experience encountered through the senses. When leader or leadership is dealt with as a phenomenon, one is examining or dealing with leader and leadership as an actual instance or live example of being a leader and exercising leadership. Put simply, the question is, if I see or I'm impacted by leader or leadership, what is it that I will see? Or what is it that will impact me? What is leadership as lived? What is a concept? Drawing on the definition of concept in Webster's dictionary, an idea or thought, especially the generalized idea of a thing or class of things. When leader or leadership is dealt with as a concept, one is examining or dealing with the domain in which being a leader exists, or the domain in which leadership is exercised. Domain is defined as a field of interest or concern. It's like a sphere. Put simply, the question is, in what domain do leader and leadership exist? Or with what are leader and leadership concerned?
In each domain.
Hmm?
In each domain.
What?
Everywhere. Not
No, actually, we're bringing it down from everywhere, anything and everywhere, that's possibility. We're bringing it down now.
in what domain you want, you can exist like leader.
Well, the question is, in what domain do leader and leadership exist? With what are leader and leadership concerned? Turns out to be a specific answer. In what domain? We're going to find out. What is a term? Drawing on the definition of a term in Webster's dictionary, a word or phrase having a limiting and definite meaning. When leader or leadership is dealt with as a term, one is examining or dealing with a definition that limits and makes definite the meaning of leader and leadership. Definition is defined as a brief, precise statement of what a word or expression means. Put simply, the question is, what are the definitions of leader and leadership? So this was term, right here, term. So we just, terms, concepts, phenomenon, abstractions. We just covered that like, really briefly. We're going to go into that deeper. Okay. First aspect, leader and leadership as linguistic abstractions. Reviewing what we have said about leader and leadership as linguistic abstractions. As linguistic abstractions, leader and leadership create leader and leadership as realms of possibility, in which when you are being a leader, all possible ways of being are available to you, and when you're exercising leadership, all possible actions are available to you. Second aspect, leader and leadership as phenomena. As phenomena, leader and leadership exist in the sphere of language, whether that be literally speaking, or speaking in the form of writing, or speaking and listening to yourself, that is thinking, or the speaking of your actions, as in actions speak louder than words, or in providing a certain kind of listening. The point is, if you look for yourself, you will see that when you see someone being a leader or exercising leadership, or when you have experience being led, you see someone functioning in the sphere of language. And more pointedly, when you are being a leader and exercising leadership, you will be functioning in the sphere of language. Remember that sometimes actions speak louder than words. As third aspect, leader and leadership as concepts. As concepts, leader and leadership exist in the temporal domain of a created future. A future that fulfills the concerns of the relevant parties, that the leader and those being led come to live into, which future gives them being and action in the present, consistent with realizing that future. The point is, being a leader and the exercise of leadership is all about realizing a future that wasn't going to happen. Later, we will make clear exactly what kind of a future people come to live into, and that gives them being and action in the present. So did you get the temporal domain part? Do you know what temporal domain is? Temporal domain.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Just to
Huh?
always take place.
What's temporal mean? Do you know what temporal means?
Yes.
What?
Always existing.
No.
Yes.
Temporal means having to do with time. Temporal as in past, present, and future.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Yes.
Okay. So the temporal domain, the domain of time, exists in the temporal domain of a created future. A future that fulfills the concerns of the relevant parties, that the leader and those being led come to live into, which future gives them being and action in the present consistent with realizing that future. Fourth aspect, leader and leadership as terms. Leader and leadership as terms are based on the previous three aspects of leader and leadership. Of course, each of these four aspects that constitute the context for leader and leadership will need further clarification. And after that clarification, if this contextual framework is valid, what you will see when you see someone actually being a leader and exercising leadership effectively will be as defined. Fourth aspect, leader as term. As a term, being a leader is defined as committed to realizing a future that wasn't going to happen, that fulfills the concerns of the relevant parties, and with the availability of an unlimited set for being in action, being the kind of clearing for leader and leadership that shapes the way the circumstances you are dealing with occur for you, such that your naturally correlated way of being and acting is one of being a leader and exercising leadership effectively. Fourth aspect, leadership as term. As a term, leadership is defined as an exercise in language that results in a created future that the leader and those being led come to live into, which future gives them being and action in the present that results in the realization of a future that wasn't going to happen, which future fulfills or contributes to fulfilling the concerns of the relevant parties, including, critically, those who granted the leadership, those who lead you, and those you lead. Anything about that slide? Got it? Okay. 548, turn. All right, 13 slides here and we'll be done for today. Fourth aspect, term. Definition of leadership as a term, in short. Later we will explore leadership as a term in full. For now, we will explore leadership as a term in short. As a term, leadership is defined as the realization of a future that wasn't going to happen, which future fulfills or contributes to fulfilling the concerns of the relevant parties, including, critically, those who granted the leadership, those who led you, and those you lead. Clarifying the words and phrases in the definition of leadership as term. By realization of a future, we mean bring into being as a reality a future that existed only as a possibility. By that wasn't going to happen, we mean a future that in the prevailing context does not occur as an authentic possibility, does not call into effective actions those required to act in order to realize that future. Or saying the same thing in another way around, a future that requires a new context in order to be experienced as an authentic possibility. Although a leader has a set of conditions that confronts him or her, be clear that the conditions, that is, what is so about the situation, is different than the context in which those conditions occur for the leader and those being led. By the way, this where it says context in parentheses up here, in future courses will be changed to the circumstances and the conditions in which those circumstances exist. So we mean that instead of saying prevailing context, a future that in the prevailing circumstances and the conditions in which those circumstances exist does not occur as an authentic possibility. So you could say reducing the deaths by self-inflicted injury in half in the next 3 years. There's a certain circumstances that people do that in the conditions in which those circumstances exist, right? That those are the current circumstances, and there's conditions in which those circumstances happen. And it does not occur as an authentic possibility by a future in that circumstance and those conditions. It doesn't occur as an authentic possibility. There's no call to effective action of those required to act in order to realize that future. Got it? By concern, in the phrase concerns of the relevant parties, we mean a matter of fundamental interest or importance to a person. What, after all, really matters for that person. A concern to be fulfilled is distinct from a position one has taken or an opinion one has. The foregoing is true in the sense that one takes a position because one believes that prevailing in that position will fulfill some underlying concern. By relevant parties, we mean the parties and our entities whose concerns will be fulfilled by the realization of the future, and those who will be impacted by the realization of that future. Which future is directing or underlies the exercise of leadership. Do you have any questions about that slide? By granted, in the phrase, those who granted the leadership, we mean to indicate that leadership was granted to a leader as contrasted with position or authority, which is assigned. Leaders must earn the granted, the opportunity to lead. Substituting the foregoing clarifications for the words and phrases that we used in our short definition of leadership as a term, we can now define leadership as a term as bring into being as a reality a future that in the prevailing circumstances and the conditions in which those circumstances exist was not going to happen. That is, did not occur as an authentic possibility. Did not call into effective action those required to act in order to realize that future. Which future fulfills or contributes to fulfilling a matter of fundamental interest or importance to the relevant parties, including those who granted the leadership, those who lead you, and those you lead. What does leadership as a term in short mean? Look like on the court? So this would be your homework. What does that look like on the court? So, a realization of a future that wasn't going to happen, are you clear about what that is?
Yes.
Which fulfills the, which future, that future, fulfills the concerns of the relevant parties. Are you clear about the meaning of that? Regarding the specific situation in your life that you identified, who are the relevant parties? What are their fundamental concerns? Speculate on a future that could be created that wasn't going to happen anyway, that fulfills the fundamental concerns of the relevant parties. So you have a commitment to make a difference in this country by your ambassadorship. There are a lot of people in Ukraine that are concerned with their future and having a country that's thriving. So there's a lot of relevant parties that can get enrolled into that conversation, Okay, lunch break. Lunch is over. Continue the work of creating boundaries within leader and leadership as a relevant possibility by starting to discover the other aspects of the contextual framework required for your being a leader and exercising leadership effectively as your natural self-expression. We only have 2 more slides. 59. All right. The truth is worthless. I have no idea why they put this slide in here. but it's in the slide deck and it's where it is, so I'm gonna read it to you, okay?
Okay.
The truth does not justify anything, and when you attempt to use it to justify something, you kill whatever truth value, power it may have. The truth does not tell you what to do. The truth does not prescribe or proscribe anything. If you get close to the truth, be clear that the attempt to use it kills whatever truth value, power it may have. Whatever power the truth may have is in its using you. Huh?
I don't understand.
You don't understand the last line or all?
Oh, if you get close to the truth, be clear that the attempt to use it kills whatever truth value power it may have.
Yeah.
What?
How would you use it?
Does it mean that we don't have to tell everybody the truth?
No, it's not that truth.
Okay, what truth is that?
The truth, let's say, like the truth about life, the truth about leadership, the truth about love.
Real truths are just truths which other people create.
Not the truth which other people create.
So we don't need to use it, we just need to be used by it.
That's right.
And okay, I get it.
So by the way, you could regard this as the truth. And you can all see that you're trying to use it.
Yeah.
You can't use this, just let it be there and use you. It's worthless. If you try to use this, it's worthless. Whatever power it may have, it kills whatever power. If you understand this is the truth and try to use it, it will kill whatever power there is there for you to use, for you. However, whatever power the truth may have is in its using you. So don't worry about using this. It will use you.
Okay, then what, how?
It will use you. Don't worry. Like when you get on a bicycle and balance, you have the distinction balance, yeah? It uses you. You don't have to worry about it. If you try to use balance, if you try to use it, you're going to end up in a wreck. But if you're just there, being used by balance, everything works out well. The truth is that way also. If you try to use it, you're going to be in a wreck.
The truth is that it is a little bit difficult to understand, but yeah.
Yeah. Don't try to understand this. Just whatever value is in it, it will use you. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. 60. All right. So let's talk about these things. We have 10 minutes to talk about these things. In your future, who are your relevant parties? What are their fundamental concerns? Speculate on a future that could be created that wasn't going to happen anyway, that fulfills the concerns of the relevant parties.
Wow. When you are going to be, for example, a president of Ukraine, your relevant parties are all the people
Yes?
who live in Ukraine.
Yes?
Because they give you a chance to be a president, and you give them that they want to be you a president and to do something for the country.
Yes.
Okay. And what are their fundamental concerns?
Yeah.
They're concerned that when you are going to be president, you are going to do something that they want? Or what?
I don't know. Well, what would be their concerns?
Maybe the
Speculate on a future that could be created that wasn't going to happen anyway.
Could be created.
Yeah, speculate on a future that wasn't going to happen anyway. that would fulfill the concerns of the relevant parties. What future isn't going to happen anyway? Like us guess at it, speculate at it.
People will get a president which will leave them for a prosperous country.
Aha. A president which will leave a prosperous country.
Can you give some more examples of this?
Yeah. Can you?
I'm just asking for you to
Give
some
more examples. I think you're doing great.
About
Can you see that this is stark contrast? Remember when you first came into this course, you were concerned with how to get people to do what you want? So, speculate on a future that could be created, that you could create, that could be created, that wasn't going to happen anyway, that fulfills the concerns of the relevant parties.
Why, I don't understand why that wasn't going to happen anyway.
Well, if it's going to happen, you don't need leadership. That's why. You don't need a leader for something that was going to happen anyway.
yes, if you be a president, for example, because the president post is going from a father to a son, for example, from another father to another son, then you don't need to know how to be a leader, something like that. You just be a president. So.
Right.
But you,
Well, you can have a prosperous
But
Ukraine and not be a president. You can have a prosperous Ukraine and
but if we speculate this thing and we will do the actions on this thing will happen.
Yeah, if we
yeah,
want to
we're not talking about the action part yet.
Okay.
We're not talking about that. What we're doing is speculating on a future that could be created that wasn't going to happen anyway. A
Just
future that
speculate.
is Ukraine being a prosperous country going to happen anyway? If things just keep going the way they're going, drifting the way they
No.
drift? No, it's not. So that's a future that's not going to happen anyway. All right? So, that fulfills, is that a fundamental concern of what relevant parties? What are the relevant parties?
People that are
People
in this country.
Yeah, everybody in this country.
and the president.
Unless there's somebody who doesn't want it, then it might not fulfill their concern.
Yeah.
Okay. So, can you explain what are we doing this for?
What are we doing this for?
Yeah.
You're in a course called Leadership.
Yeah.
Being a leader and the effective exercise of leadership is your natural self-expression.
I know.
Yeah, that's why you're doing this. And leadership is about fulfilling concerns that aren't fulfilling futures that aren't going to happen anyway. That fulfills the concerns of the relevant party. Now, you could be your own relevant party, I suppose,
Yeah.
couldn't you?
Yes.
And you could say, I want to make $100, right? And you could have this conversation with yourself, and then that future that you created, having $100, so you could go out to dinner, whatever you wanted the $100 for, and that fulfills the concerns of the relevant party. You're the only relevant party, and you will have a life given consistent with that. It wouldn't be a bad life or a wrong life. It just gives you a certain kind of life. But if the future is called a prosperous Ukraine for everybody who lives here, yes, that was going to give you a different life than making $100 next week. It will give you a different life. Not necessarily a better one or a right one, just a different one. And then you need to look and see what is going to fulfill or contributes to fulfilling of the fundamental concerns of the relevant parties, of whatever future you say that is, in which this case is everybody in Ukraine. It doesn't have to be everybody in Ukraine. It could just be everybody in Kiev, or just your family, or just you. So, but in order for leadership to use you, in order to be a leader and effectively exercise leadership, you need something bigger than yourself, right here, committed to something bigger than yourself. And we're talking about a future that could be created that wasn't going to happen anyway, that lives inside here as well. Can you see that?
So can you give the example of Witwiki?
Of what?
Witwiki. That guy from the movie.
Yeah, okay.
He was just going to save the Earth one more time, and the relevant parts were all the people in the Earth,
Yeah?
and the future that he created is he saving the Earth. Yeah?
Yeah, who are the relevant parties?
All the people just...
Yeah, and some are more relevant than the other, like his girlfriend,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
people in the flak jackets, and, you know, some are more relevant.
Machines, Autobots, this...
Yeah. There was a lot of people, a lot of players involved in that,
Yeah.
because there was a big game. The game was called The World, actually.
Mhm.
It was a really big game. There was a lot of relevant parties, and you could see how it unfolded. And his actions were
Big.
naturally correlated to his commitment. He didn't have to think
So-
about what there was to do next.
Can we think that the bigger game is the better it is?
Is the better game?
Yeah, no, not the better one, but
It will change.
you will be
bigger.
bigger. The bigger is the game,
It
the
will-
bigger you
yeah,
are.
Yeah, it will cost you the way you wound up being. Okay, and so this is a really good point. If you only want to make $100, it probably isn't going to cost you the way you wound up being.
Yeah.
But if you're up to some game that's big, like on the level of a country,
Yeah.
it's going to cost you the way you wound up being. It's going to cost you your identity. We haven't covered exactly what that is yet, but you'll be very clear about it by the end of the course.
So
But
to
this
have
small way we wound up being, it will cost you that way.
okay. So to have a great big results, we have to have a big game, big play, and big aim.
Well, look and see, do you? The game that I'm playing, it gives me a different life than the playing a contractor in St. Louis. A contractor in St. Louis gives me one kind of life, yeah? But playing this game gives me another kind of life. Gives me different, look, who are the players that I get to play with, right? I mean, I wouldn't be talking to you, or, you know, any of you. I wouldn't even have gotten to know any of you.
But you're
We
playing
wouldn't have gotten to do the
big.
leadership course together. I wouldn't have known Dimitro. I wouldn't have known the president, you know, those people. So I'm living a different life. It
Okay.
gives me a different life, and it costs me the way I wound up being, which is a smaller person than this.
And it makes you happier or something? Or just different life?
Well, I assert that it's completely more fulfilling. When you think class is up, we can keep talking, but officially class is up, so if you have to go, go.
Okay.
So, I mean,
So this
can't you see, what do you see when you're out here about that question? What do you see about the answer to that question? Do you really need me to answer it? You don't, do you? Yeah,
So
it's pretty clear, isn't it? Yeah. It's an honor and privilege to get to do this.
So we can have all the changes that we want. If I just want to be not a mechanic of machine not a mechanic of machines, but a teacher in school, there will be a pretty well difference in these two people. But I can give a much more different, a bigger difference. I just can not to be a teacher in the school, but something much more bigger, and the difference in these two people will be bigger, yeah?
There will be a difference. I don't know about bigger. I guess bigger. But just think.
But it is not
Just
important.
think about the different. You'll have a different kind of life.
Mm-hmm.
you can see what one path, you can actually look and see what one path, what kind of life one path is going to give you.